Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesdays in the Shop. I am by myself this week. Whoa, my microphone just fell down. I was going to say that I am by myself this week because Andrea's a bit under the weather and she stayed home today. So you get to just hang out with me tonight and I have my computer under here, which is why I'm looking this way. Just to reiterate the normal thing, we do a live every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. New York City time. I'm Yvette. I'm one of the owners of Gotham Quilts in New York City, and this is our Tuesdays in the Shop. Today, I want to talk about cleaning your sewing machine and doing your own regular maintenance, which will prolong the life of your machine significantly and also just makes your life easier, and it's more pleasant to sew on a machine that has been maintained and is properly oiled, has a new needle in it. All the things, it's kind of like going to get your car checked up every year or going to your preventative care health appointments, right? When we do all those small things, they add up over time, and it makes, when something big happens, makes that less of a problem. We do recommend getting, especially for BERNINA, to do a yearly maintenance with your tech. Take it to the spa for a spa day. They will be able to clean the inside of the machine in a way that you can't do yourself. Don't ever try to get into the inside of your machine. I've had people do some crazy things. You do not want to do that. You want to let a professional get in there. But there are things that you, as a hobbyist, should be doing regularly in between those bigger appointments. And I'm here to show you what that is. I'm going to demo on our Classroom 475, but this applies to pretty much every sewing machine. When I get to parts that might be different on a different brand, I'll mention that as well. But let's get started. If you have any questions, since I'm by myself, it's a little bit harder to monitor the chat, but I will be checking in with the chat if you have questions as I go, or you can even ask me stuff that isn't about this. I'm just gonna switch cameras now, okay? All right, so you can see here, this is the front of a 475. BERNINAs have, if you're not familiar with BERNINA, there are number lines. So the 7 series, the 5 series, the 4 series, the 3 series. This is the mid-range quilters edition of the 4 series, the 475. And this is the machine we sew on in the classroom. If you had come and taken classes with us, during the last 7 years when we were offering classes, this is the machine you would have been on. And step 1 of doing your regular maintenance is to turn it off. You do not want to accidentally hit something and maybe stitch through a finger or who knows what else. Oh, and doing that reminded me, I didn't turn my big light on. Hold on one second so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Here we go. Big light on. So step 1, turn your machine off. Step 2, you're going to take off whatever presser foot is on your machine currently. On BERNINA, there's this cute little knob thing, and you just pull it out. On a non-BERNINA machine, you almost certainly will have a little screwdriver that you would unlock a nut on. Wait, a bolt, not a nut. Or some of them I've seen, like, you don't want to just pull the bottom off if you have a clip-on foot. You want to pull the whole shank out so that you have room to work with. On BERNINA, it's nice and easy because we have these full shank feet that are really hardy and last a long time. On a non-BERNINA, it might be a different process, but check your manual. Always the best place to look if you are not sure how to do something is the owner's manual for your machine. The next thing I'm going to do, and this is how I do this, I'm going to take my needle out. On a BERNINA, there is a nice, easy way to do this. You see this little knob here? Let me see if I can get that a little closer. This little knob here, that loosens the screw on the needle so that you can pull your needle out really easily without having to go find your little screwdriver. On other machines, you might need a little screwdriver. I'm just going to put this needle aside, and then I'm going to get my stitch plate off. You might not know that the name for this piece of metal that sits on top of the surface and where the feed dogs come out of, these little teeth are called feed dogs. This piece is called a stitch plate. On a BERNINA, this is another thing they've done that's like a really nice, user-friendly thing. You see this little circle thing at the back? You may actually not be able to see that. Let's see if I can get that closer. See this little circle back here? That's where you push on a Bernina to get your stitch plate to pop up. So I've taken mine off. First thing I do is I look at the back, because a lot of times you'll get lint stuck on the back. Your oil can travel up there and then get stuck. So you can just go like this with your fingers, or if you're fancier than me, with like a microfiber cloth, and see if there's anything stuck on the back, and put this aside. And as you can see, going a little closer, this machine's a little dirty. There's lint in there, right? That's normal. That's why you're doing this, is to get rid of the lint that accumulates when you stitch. And if you're stitching with cotton, you're going to have more lint than if you're stitching with, say, polyester. The most important thing, oh, and I didn't say, for other machines, so if you don't have a Bernina that has this nice push, here's me putting it back in just to show you again, all you do is you push that back corner and it pops out. If you don't have a Bernina with this nice, like, easy release thing, you almost certainly have something with a screwdriver that you would unscrew the screws and then lift up the thing and then try not to lose that screw so you can put it back. The number one thing when you're cleaning a sewing machine is to not push the stuff back in the machine as much as possible. You want to avoid the urge to blow at your lint. Everybody has that feeling of just like blow it away. If you did that, it would be pushing the lint further into your machine instead of getting it out of the machine, which is what you're trying to do. If you end up pushing lint this way, then that means even more work for your tech when you take it in for its normal maintenance. Next thing I'm doing is I opened my door to my bobbin case and my bobbin. And on here on a Bernina, you push this little lock thing. I don't know what the real name for this is. I call it lock thing. And then this arm comes down. Oh, and sometimes your hook comes out with it. This is my bobbin and my bobbin case. I could have pulled out the bobbin first, which maybe would have made more sense actually. But this is the hook. And then this is the bobbin and the bobbin case. I'm going to look at my bobbin and bobbin case first. I'm going to take out my bobbin and look at my bobbin case. And in this case, I actually usually do just blow in it like that. If you see more lint in there, you can take your handy little brush, which comes with any sewing machine, and you just kind of go around and see if you can clean off the little bits of dust. You would be shocked to find out that a little bit of dust in the exact wrong place can cause some weird things to happen. So I always kind of look around, make sure that I don't see anything weird. There's almost never something wrong with the bobbin itself, but you might as well look at it just in case. Put that aside. And now I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to look at this too. Now, this on a Bernina, this is the new jumbo bobbin and jumbo hook. This piece here, the bobbin case goes into it, and you'll see that there are two yellow sort of like foam pads inside. This is where you're going to oil later, but before we get to oiling, you can see that there's actually lint inside of here. When your machine has oil in it in order for having the metal parts go past each other, right? But the oil travels all over the place and then sticks to the lint, and then you get lint stuck to the metal. So you're going to use your little brush and just go around and see what comes up. See, look, there's some dust. That's what you're looking for. Try not to put it back in there once you pull it out. So I'm just going around, no particular way, just boop, boop, boop. And then usually after this step, I go like this, just in case. One little tip, if you see lint there, let's see if I can get that to zoom in. All right, so see this little spot, let's see here, this spot here. If you see what looks like lint at either of those spots, resist the urge to pull that out. That is not lint. That is the other side of that little foam where the oil goes. It sticks out. If you look at it this way, you can see it a little bit, hopefully. Let's see if I can get this to focus. I really wish I could tell it to focus. Here we go. Can you see that there's a little bit of lint looking stuff there? It's actually not lint. It's the little wick for the oil so that when you put oil in the dot, the oil goes out and can lubricate the ring. So resist the urge, which I have had in the past, to take a tweezers and try to get that out. You do not want it to come out. It's supposed to be in there, okay? Don't do it. Resist the urge. I see a little teeny bit more lint over here, so I'm just going to wipe that again. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to put that aside. And then let's look at the machine again. I'm going to see if I can give you a little bit better view of the actual, whoops, sorry, probably made you dizzy. So the actual top of the machine where I moved my stitch plate, you can see that someone was sewing with red thread, hopefully. My tip for you is to take your hand and put it underneath when you go to get rid of the lint that's up here. These brushes are like kind of sticky. Plus, they probably have a bunch of oil on them when you've used them a lot. So that helps you get the lint out because the lint will stick to the brush as you go. So I'm just going gently forward with the intent of having the lint fall in my hand, because what I don't want is for the lint to travel further into the machine. So anything I can do to kind of corral that lint. Oh, some fell down at the bottom. Do you see that? I just went and rescued it so that I don't lose it. Anything you can do to control the lint. So things you don't want to do this really vigorously, right? Because then lint goes everywhere. You're going to go gently and you're going to go towards you. And as you do this, the lint will clump onto itself and should come out pretty easily. The most delicate part of this section of the machine is if you have a automatic thread cutter, which this machine does have. That's this little scissor icon here. If I were to press this, if the machine was on, this section here would pop out and cut my thread and pop back in. That can actually be cleaned itself, but I'm not going to show that on this video. This is just for regular maintenance. But this is the most delicate part of this internal. Everything else is not delicate in here. So you don't have to be super gentle because you think you might break it. I'm being gentle because I don't want my lint to go everywhere. I want to contain the lint and not distribute the lint. And I'm keeping going a little bit. And in this part, that's the delicate part, just be a little extra careful that you don't accidentally go too rough in that cutter, because you can get, I had a customer once get their entire brush stuck in there because they were just like really too rough with it and they were like pushing it in there. All right, I'm going to go on this little corner because I see a little bit more dust over here, and you can see it's falling down, right? And I'm keeping my hand here, trying to catch as much of the dust as I can. Just gonna go, whoop, look, I found a little piece of dust again. Just grab that. The more you do this, the more dust kind of comes out of nowhere. So I just keep going, even though it looks like pretty clean. Oh, I just found another little piece down here. So resist the urge again to just, do a once over real fast. You took the time to do this, might as well do it right. That way you don't have to do it as often also. Speaking of doing it as often, people always ask, how often should I be cleaning my machine? And for this kind of home sewing machine, I usually recommend every like 3 or 4 bobbin changes. Or you can think about it as like if you've done a full day of sewing, like 8 hours of sewing, probably want to clean your machine. Now that I have this section pretty clean, let's see if I can get it closer. You can see it. Well, there we go. You can see that I got most of that lint out. I don't really see any more lint. Put this back a little higher up. Now I'm going to clean on the bottom. I'm going to tip the machine up just so you can see it better, but I wouldn't do this normally. I'm just trying to give you a better view of it. So here you can see that there's lint all over the hook race, which is this plastic part. But more importantly, there's lint back here in the actual hook. So I'm going to start back here, and I'm just going to be really gentle because I'm trying to, again, catch the lint and not push it back in. There's a little piece of lint right there that I really want to get out, and it does not want to come. Let's see if I can do it with my pinky. Oh, I think I got it. Oh, no, I didn't. It's right there. Oh, coming, it's coming. I might actually need tweezers for this. So if you ever get a little piece of lint that just is very stubborn and doesn't want to come out, most machines come with tweezers, or you might just have them yourself, for your eyebrows or whatever. Grab your tweezers and just reach in there. I don't have tweezers with me this time, so I'm just not going to worry about that one right now. I'm just going to keep cleaning all around because I still have a lot of lint. And I do not like lint. Clean, clean, clean. I'm going to put it down because it's actually really hard to hold it that way. I'm going to clean around the plastic part and around the front. And pretty much now that's clean. I'm going to just clean the lint that came out of the bottom. And, here's how much of the lint I got out. That's pretty good, right? We once had somebody dropping off a machine that when we popped the stitch plate off, it was solid lint. The entire thing was lint. And I was surprised that that machine would even run in that condition because there was so much lint in the way of the mechanics. And it turns out that that customer, she actually broke her hook. This piece of the hook came flying off because there was so much lint back here, and she pushed her bobbin in, and because there was no room, because there was so much lint, this metal bit cracked off and she had to get a whole new hook. And these pieces are expensive. This is like a $60 part of your machine. So you save yourself some trouble by just keeping it clean, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to oil in here. So on these jumbo bobbin machines, there's the two little foam bits that I've already mentioned where they get oil. They say to put 1 drop of oil in each of these little guys. So here's my machine oil. This is the oil for a 457 or a Q series actually takes this oil too, which I find kind of confusing because they're very different looking machines and they have very different bobbins, but I mean the Q series versus the domestics. All right, so I'm taking my hook, I'm finding my little foam bit there, and I'm just putting 1 drop of oil right there. And I'm actually going to put 2 because this is really dry. When you do this, you get used to, oops, that one was a little much. Look, I kind of overdid it on that one. But it's sucking right in because it's so dry. Probably we haven't actually maintained these as well as we should have. Do what I say, not what I do, as usual. So if you put the drop in and it just sucks right up, then you could probably put another little drop in. Maybe I'm going to do one more over here. See what it does. Yeah, I think that's pretty happy now. So I've oiled the hook, and then I'm going to put that aside, and then in the hook race, you're supposed to put 1 little drop of oil right at the bottom, like there, basically right here. And every time I put oil in a machine, the first thing I do afterwards is I just use my hand wheel to turn. Oops, it would have been better to do this up. So see how I'm just turning? So what that does is it distributes the oil so that you don't end up with just oil in one spot. On this, you can't actually do that because the oil is inside. All right, so I'm going to start putting things back together now. Here's a tip when you're putting these back in. It is possible to put them in upside down. It's very annoying to me that Bernina designed these this way. It would have been so easy to design them so that you couldn't put it in upside down. But the trick when you're putting them in, you see how there's this, I don't even know what to call this, metal arm maybe? There's 2 of them. There's 2 spots here like this, right? You need to line up the grooves with that. And because I just messed with the height of this, all right. So I don't know if you know this, but also this is the uptake. When you're threading, you want this to be at the top. That means that your needle the thread is all the way out and everything's in the right organization spot. So now that I've changed that, then I look again and you see how my 2 knobby looking arm things are in this configuration. This way I am pretty confident that I can pop this in. Again, I'm trying to line up And you see how it just went right in? Oh. It would definitely be easier to do if I didn't have to hold the machine at the same time. Okay, I'm putting it down because I really can't do it with my left hand. Okay. So I'm trying to line up these indents. And if you do it without first lifting up the machine, it goes right in. There it went. And it's kind of magnetized. So when you get it to the right position or close to the right position, it just goes boop and goes right into where it belongs. Now I can close the front. And actually, it's only a little bit still a little linty over here. I'm going to do a little more delinting. Can never have enough delinting, you know? And then I'm taking my bobbin case and my bobbin, and I'm putting my bobbin back in and threading it through. Whoop, just like so. And popping that in. This is one of my favorite little features on a Bernina, is that there's a little thread cutter on your bobbin area. So then you just take the thread and you cut it right there. And now you don't have a crazy amount of thread, and it's like the exact right amount. Close my door, move the machine a little closer now. I'm going to put back my stitch plate, my nice and clean stitch plate. Pop it right in. It's actually really satisfying to pop it in like that. And then what am I missing? I'm missing a needle, right? I'm going to take a brand new needle. These are big packs of Schmetz needles that we buy for the classroom because we go through a lot of needles in here. Take a new needle. And if you normally sew on a home machine, you probably know that your needle is flat on one side. Ooh, let's see if I can get that to focus. That's the flat end. Come on. Give me a focus, camera. I guess you can tell just because of the how shiny it is or isn't. So the shiny side is the flat side. And all home sewing machines, well, maybe I shouldn't say all, most home sewing machines use this kind of needle where the back is flat. And the reason for that is to make it easy for home sewers to put their needle in the right way. If you're using an industrial machine, the top of the needle will be round, which means that you could put it in sideways or backwards or whatever, right? For home sewers, they figured out this is a nice trick in order to prevent you from doing that. If you were to try to put this needle in backwards or sideways, it wouldn't fit this hole in here because the hole is this half circle shape, or half round shape, I guess is the right word. So I'm just putting it in. And because Bernina has the nice little knob, I'm just tightening the knob. Resist the urge to tighten this to death, because remember, you still have to take it out at some point. And while I'm talking about needles, people often ask me, how often do you change your needle? I like to say that I change my needle about as often as I change projects. And of course, that isn't a very accurate number, because some projects are little and some projects are big, right? But in general, I'm not usually making just like, I don't know, like a zipper bag, right? Like that would probably not be enough of a project to change your needle after. But if you just finished a whole quilt, yeah, definitely change your needle after. If you just finished an entire bag with like zippers and interfacing and different parts, change your needle. If you're having skip stitches, that's a really good sign that your needle needs to be changed. Number one reason for skip stitches. All right, how much time did I spend on that? Like 30 minutes? Not too bad, right? You have any questions? Please let me know in the comments. I'm just going to clean up my little stuff over here. Oh, look at how much lint is down here. Look, all this lint. It's pretty satisfying, actually. I might go clean some more machines. They clearly need it. All right. Does anybody have any questions for me? Oops, sorry. I almost knocked that over. I'm going to switch cameras. All right. Anybody have any questions about maintenance on your machine or pretty much anything else sort of related to this? Although I guess you could ask me questions about something else too. I don't know. So Rebecca's saying that she can't figure out where to put the oil the last channel. So if you could explain what you mean by the last channel, maybe I can help you with that. I'm just not sure what that means. Did I oil on the top side near the feed dogs? No, I did not. On this model, on Berninas with a jumbo hook, you do not oil at the top. It's very common on what Bernina would have called a CB hook, or like the metal. If you're thinking of the right way to phrase this, if your bobbin case is metal, it is very common that the spot that you oil is at the top. It'll look, sorry, I'm switching cameras again. It'll look like a bar like this. And when you turn the wheel, you will expose that bar and oil right on top of the bar and then rotate. But on these, what you oil is the two little foam things on the inside of the hook. So these two little dudes inside the hook, 1, 2, and then you oil at the bottom of the hook race. That last drop of oil, where does it go? Oh, I see. Okay. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer. Let's see if I can actually, okay. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. The drop that goes inside goes at the bottom. So basically, you'll see that there's metal and then there's plastic. You're oiling essentially right on the metal underneath the plastic, just a little drop right there. Oh, it's not in focus. Hopefully you understood what that meant. Alicia's saying that it's therapeutic to clean the machine. It's kind of relaxing. I agree. As long as you're not in a rush. Try not to do it in a rush. Lola's saying, I have the old 830 record. I oil anywhere on the top section where there's metal to metal. Is that okay? What about the turn wheel? Does that get oiled? I have never heard of a machine where you would oil your hand wheel, but I do not have enough experience with a 830 record to give you more information than that, unfortunately. I would suggest looking at the manual, which you hopefully still have. And if you don't, you can definitely Google it and you can find like a PDF version of it. That model is just not one I have experience with. Sorry about that, Lola. All right, anybody else have any questions? Put this back. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, if you're ever worried about over oiling, you kind of don't have to worry about that. There's no such thing as like a negative outcome from putting too much oil in. For a 350, okay, so Denise is asking for a 350, where do you oil it? So a 350 has a CB bobbin, and I don't have one in front of me, so I can't really demo it, but it's roughly the same. You put the oil in up here. Ooh, Hank has a good question. He's saying, if you haven't used the machine, in his case it's a Bernina 350, in 3 years, what do you do before you start using it? Number one tip, plug it in and just leave it alone for a minute. On every machine, not just a Bernina, there's actually two, what's the word I'm looking for? Boards, power boards is the word I'm looking for. So when you plug your machine in, this power supply goes in and hits the little baby board whose job it is to turn on the actual big board of the machine. And that little baby board holds a charge. It essentially has a little battery inside of it. If you haven't used your machine in years and years and years, whoops, the little baby board will run entirely out of juice. So if you plug it in and try to turn it on, it won't turn on. So the solution to that is plug it in and leave it. And that way, when you go, I don't know, a day later, go back to it and press the turn on button, then it'll boot up, hopefully. If it doesn't boot up, then you might have a different problem. But what I was trying to say before is that there isn't really a negative side effect to over oiling. Whoops, sorry, keep moving this camera. If you put too much oil in, like pretend you accidentally squeezed your oil bottle too hard and too much oil came in, the worst thing that possibly happened from this is that oil could get on your project. There's no mechanical thing that can happen. It won't, gunk up things inside. It won't make it slide too much. Nothing bad happens other than potentially getting oil on your project. So if you notice that you put too much oil on, you can wipe it out with some fabric, and then I would stitch a little bit. Just put some scrap fabric in and do some stitching, and that'll make the oil distribute through. And if any of it's going to end up on your project, it'll end up on your little scrap bit instead of ending up on your real project. I actually looked that up once because guess what? I had actually over squeezed it and ended up with like a puddle and was kind of freaking out. But it was fine because it turns out it doesn't matter. I'm putting this back down. There it went. It's so satisfying when it just goes. Closing this, putting this back, closing this, putting this back. And last but not least, I'm putting my foot back. And now I can sew. If anybody else has any questions, oh, this is really crooked now. Probably better for you if it's not as crooked. I'm going to switch the camera around again. So if anyone who's watching, or if you watch this later and I didn't cover something that you were wondering about, just put a comment on the video. We always reply back. And if you have a question, chances are good somebody else has that same question and maybe they're too embarrassed to ask. Go ahead and ask, and we'll do what we can to help you out. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are on our email list, which I hope you are, we sent out an email last weekend that we have new markdowns as part of our store closing sale. So the best way to keep in touch and to find out what's new is to join our email list. You go to gothamquilts.com/newsletter to sign up if you haven't already, or even on the Gotham Quilts homepage, like scroll down to like the middle. There's a sign up bar there too. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was supposed to tell you about. I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. We will be back next week and we'll have more fun things for you then. I hope you have a nice Tuesday and see you next week. Thank you.